Hello. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Role Playing Guys. This is Spencer hopping in here to do a quick intro. As you know, this is the question and answer session that we are doing for Season 4. So in this episode, we'll be answering questions that we had of each other, as well as some questions that you guys sent in to us, and our official review of the game system of Corporia. It's a really good episode. There's a lot of joking around, a lot of fun dialogue, and so many questions that I had personally that I got answers to, so that was really cool. We hope that you guys enjoyed as well. We still have our awesome giveaway going on, which is super easy peasy to enter. If you like the original post, you will get one entry. If you follow Escapebox Games, Bravo Mark Press, or Monty Cook Games on social media and send us a screenshot of that, you will get another entry. For those who really want to win, you need to listen up now because this is how you do it. If you rate our podcast, you will get an additional 5 entries. If you comment on your rating that you give of our show, you will get an additional 5 more entries. And if you subscribe to the podcast, you will get another 10 entries. Please send us screenshots of all of these so that way we can keep track of how you guys are doing. Do you see how easy it is? Fantastic. Go forth and enter to potentially win a Sketch Goblin drawing, a PDF copy of Numenera Suited and Corporia, or which translates to a dice bag with minis. We have some awesome prizes that we want to give to our awesome fan base. As you already know, the next episodes that we will be posting are our testing of the game system Afterlife, which was sent to us by an indie game developer. We really enjoyed it. There was a lot of fun stuff, and Danny from Season 1 and 2 is back with us for that, so it was a blast to record. We'll have about 4, maybe 5 episodes of that before we get into Season 5, which is The Wrath of the Glory. If you have a game system that you want us to test out or are developing, or something that you've come across and you're like, hey, is this good? Is this bad? I don't know. Send it our way and we will test it out for you. That's our deal. We are the role-playing guys and we test out different role-playing games so you don't have to. We love our indie game developing community and we want to support them by rating their games and giving them feedback as well as promoting them. So that way when they do get their Kickstarters or anything like that, they have support from us and our wonderful fans. Finally, thank you so much to our patrons at Patreon. You are the Slimer to our Ghostbusters. Absolutely essential to give us any sort of merit as a show. Anyway, let's get to the episode.
Well, welcome everyone to the Role Playing Guys and to our final wrap-up session, Q&A, feedback, all that good stuff of Corporia. I am Nick. I was the GM for Season 4. With me is Rebecca, who played the character of L. Lane.
Hey, everyone.
Spencer, who played the character of Robert R. Roberts.
Yes, I did.
I almost said Scotty. Tyler, who played the character of Scotty Madigan.
That's me, alright.
Brianna, who played the character of Britta Celery Britta.
Ensign.
Ty, your hair looks really good today. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you grew it out or if it's styled differently. It just looks handsome.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. I think I just did the normal stuff I do every day. Brianna doesn't tell me this,
I'm not sure why you're commenting on this, Spencer, in our podcast.
Gonna make you edit.
I'm sorry, it just looks good.
Here, I'll take a picture and I'll put it on one of our stories for all of our listeners.
Game recognized game. Real recognized real.
Okay. But yes, this is... So, as we typically do, we like to have a final episode to kind of close everything off. This is where we talk about how we felt about the game, ask each other questions about, whatever question you have.
Nice.
A nice dramatic pause.
Oh, gosh.
Ask whatever you want.
Basically, especially as it pertains to Season 4 of Corporia. But anyway, I think what might be good is let us each talk about, I don't know, we usually just kind of go around the circle. Like feedback and then questions or whatever. Why are you laughing?
Usually it's questions and then feedback because feedback is Good
point. Good point.
I was just picturing, all the kids sitting in a circle. Let's go around in a circle.
Let's all say what we liked.
I will go ahead.
Back in Miss Onion's class, that's exactly what we did.
Hey, who has the talking stick?
It's me. I got the talking cookie.
We actually never had one of those. Although I did have a fun little timeout story in kindergarten. Not that
Nick on timeout.
Man, the rebellious one.
I was being polite. I was talking when I wasn't supposed to by being polite.
That'll show you.
That'll show you. Anyway, I will go ahead and start with questions, and we'll go around the digital circle, I suppose. Anyway.
Who are we bombarding with questions first?
Oh, right. We focus on a person.
We interrogate them.
Who would like to be asked questions first? Is there anyone who is really interested in... You know what? How about all of you ask me questions first?
Yay!
Always about Nick.
Mixing it up. How about this? How about a listener question?
Ooh, dirty.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I posted about questions, I think about a week ago, and our friend Fish for Life 2016 on Instagram.
Yes.
Shout out to you for asking an awesome question.
I love you, Fish for Life.
Swim.
This is a general question about the podcast in general. So I'll start with Nick, since you're the first one. We can go around from there. What has been your favorite character to play in the podcast?
In the podcast specifically?
Yes.
All right. Let's see. Of the characters I have...
If you say Trent, I will quit this, so help me God.
That was pretty fun just because of the reactions, but...
Oh, gosh. I'm happy to answer questions about how that happened, or ask questions about how that... Whatever. Anyway, let's see. The characters I had, it was Yar Harriet Season 1. Season 2 was... Decro. I was going to say Denko. Decro. Oh, gosh. And then Presta. And then, anyway. All of them are really fun for me in their own way. I really liked the voice I did for Decro. That was a lot of fun. And also the fact that he was kind of a shield jack person. Presta was also really fun because she had a really fun journey, even though... my journey with Pathfinder was about as tumultuous sometimes. But
so true.
Presta Arcane's journey was really fascinating. I love that.
I like her last name. I just noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. But I always have a soft spot in my heart for Yarharet Tintunabular because he was the first character I ever made, and he's also very much like me, librarian, likes music.
Cries a lot.
Cries a lot.
It was in the podcast where that started somehow for some reason.
Well,
Nick
Rebecca
does.
can attest to the fact that Nick is always crying.
No.
No.
Rebecca's eyes always cry.
Silence confirms
I'm
it.
actually tearing up right now. Allergies.
Because she's not feeling great. So joke's on you, Trent.
Ouch.
Oh my gosh. Did Spencer just disconnect?
Anyway, my answer is going to be Yarharet because I like his voice, I like his character. He's a classic for me.
Nice.
Let's go ahead. Well, Rebecca, what's your favorite character to play in the podcast?
That's a really hard one. Let me think about this for a few minutes. No, Elle. The only.
Al, for sure.
How about Spencer?
So I played Ricardo in Season 1, who is a halfling... What was he? Was he a bard?
He was a cleric.
He was a
Cleric, that's what it was.
Light
Cleric of
I
Light.
remember.
Cleric of Light, yeah. He was a lot of fun. Who else? There was
Greg
Greg in
android.
Season 2, and I liked him a lot. And then
Robert.
everybody else in Season 3. And then Robert in Season 4. I think Ricardo was my favorite, really. I thought Greg had a lot of interesting potential, but I never really explored him enough. And then Robert, he was fun in the sense that he was like an interesting sort of character, but I think Ricardo was definitely the most complex character that I saw the most growth out of, and the one that seemed to be the most clearly motivated. So that was a lot of fun with him.
Yeah, that also helped. It was like a really long season. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Tyler?
Okay, so this is tough. I think my player character, I'd have to say Timmy from season 2.
Yeah.
I just loved playing him. He was so fun. Just this juvenile kid wonder genius kid that could hack stuff was just so fun. And I think all the interactions with Greg and Decro was just really funny. And also with Timmy the robot, that was also that was great. But my favorite non-player character was definitely Bolty. Bolty was probably my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Bolty was gold.
Or Carlos. Carlos was also really funny to play,
Carlos
too.
was surprisingly deep.
Surprisingly, yes. But it's just funny because he was not supposed to be even existing, but you guys made it so. So that's kind of the joy of dungeon mastering or GMing, is you guys always get on the characters that
Why do you care
have no
about
purpose.
this goblin child?
He's become kind of the de facto logo of
He's the mascot.
our
Like
podcast.
him
Yeah.
him and Bolty have been, at least in my mind, have been kind of the cute faces of our podcast.
No, that's you, Nick.
Hey!
Aww.
There's a
We just
reason
need to
we're-
make Nick's face
There's a
a
reason
logo.
this is a podcast, not a YouTube video. You think I look attractive?
Yeah, it's those rosy cheeks. I want to pinch them. Just nibble.
Okay,
Ooh.
stop right there, please.
I just want to squeeze those cheeks.
And then, Brianna, you also, like Rebecca, only had one character.
Two.
but
Oh,
Shit,
two.
too.
Swana and Britta.
I'm so sorry. I forgot about Swana. Who's your
How did you
favorite?
forget
then?
about Swana?
I have 3 characters. My
Who's the
love.
third one?
No, I have Chip from this is a stretch because this isn't from the podcast, but she didn't say what was your favorite character from the podcast. So I'm gonna say it was Chip the Tiefling from that crossover we did
Oh.
with Jules.
Ah.
And Fate of Eisen.
The Fate of Eisen,
That
yeah.
was really fun.
He
I
was
can't
just-
wait. for
he was
that
a
to come
turd.
out. He was such a-
And then I loved second I loved, I don't know, just Britta and oh man, what was her name? Swana.
Swana.
Swana or Tide. Sorry, I'm that person, but I enjoyed them both equally.
Boo.
Pick a favorite, you coward.
Yeah. You're disappointing Fish for Life 2016.
Yeah, he's going to be raging on our social media.
Anyway.
So that was his question
Excellent.
for everybody.
Cool.
I've got a question for Nick.
Yeah, so go ahead, Spencer.
A lot of what you said this season was based off of what Mark Clemens had wrote and was original content for Corporia, or the game system. How much of it did you come up with on your own, and where did you diverge exactly in the storyline, and why did you diverge from what had already been created?
Excellent question. So in the Corporia rulebook, there are I think about 6 missions that are put in there as suggestions, and they could have been all linked together. And I decided that it was as good a campaign as any, especially since I really liked a couple of the twists and a couple of the missions and things like that. It started with the Lady of the Lake with the Simon Gregory. Actually, I only took about half of the missions because a couple of the other ones were just kind of they didn't seem as extraordinary to me. So I took the first mission. The second one was for Quest the one for Quest Magazine. I diverged from that one. Because the way that was written, it was slightly more mature content in there. Because instead of fighting a chimera, you're actually the Quest Magazine's writer's wife was actually a succubus and not a chimera.
Oh,
And
nice.
I
Should have
thought,
kept it.
Yeah,
for our family-friendly podcast, no.
that would have spiced things up a little bit.
I decided a chimera was also pretty fun, and that a fighting club would be a pretty interesting clandestine sort of a thing.
Was it a fight club originally, or was it something else?
It was a succubus at a nightclub.
No,
So
gotcha.
yeah, so I understandably diverged from that one, but the basic premise was pretty much the same there. There was one that focused more on Bastion, but I just kind of made a couple. That's where I diverged the most. I was just looking for ways to suggest Bastion early and have that be a continual thing instead of just a one-off mission. The ring in the museum, that was the essence of it was there, but again, I tied it into issues with Bastion. The sword in the table and the Holy Grail. The beginning part of it, that was written in there. Sword, Excalibur in the stone table, and then King Arthur in a coma in a separate room. Where the Grail was, though, again, it was in a more random place, I think. It wasn't actually in Bastion. I just thought that it was, keeping Bastion as a concurrent element, and maybe as a red herring for the final boss, quote-unquote final boss, would have been pretty good. And then the final battle, I did it almost verbatim, because I really liked how that was written. But yeah, I really liked a lot of the ideas in there, and those are the places where I kept it and diverged it. Oh yeah, the library thing, I made that up entirely. I thought that would be a good introductory adventure. Plus, I like libraries and the L space and thesaurus.
No, you like libraries?
Wait, what?
I didn't know that you liked libraries. It's not like you worked there all through college.
And still work at a library now. Yeah, exactly.
And are getting your...
I'm getting a master's in library science as well. So, and then I was inspired by Terry Pratchett's L space and everything. So, that was all me, definitely. But the basic premise of the later missions, except for the one where you actually clashed with Bastion and there were drones and things like that, I also made that up as well. So I took like every good game master, I took what I liked and made up, and there you go.
Cool.
I
thought it was a really good blend.
Thank you.
Oh, you're good. I have a question for you, though. What was the biggest curveball that we, the characters, threw at you? Because there's always one. At least.
There's
Britta
plenty.
staying back.
That's probably the biggest one, honestly. I expected that out of Scotty, not Britta. And so that was the biggest thing. And so we, but it was still fun. I always enjoyed being Jeremy Lee. There's such a good picture of Jeremy Lee in the core rulebook, and so I just took that and ran with the idea. It's just like a picture of him with his teeth and his fist clenched, and he's got, even though Robert would have said don't clench, he's got handcuffs on and everything. He's on the phone with somebody and upset. Anyway, another curveball would be your treatment of Trent. I say his name instantly, and literally no context from anywhere, and all of a sudden Spencer hates Trent.
I'm pretty sure that's justified, though. If we really
I just that I did not expect. I mean, that wasn't so much a curveball because it didn't really change the plot that much, except flavorly, cosmetically, it very much did. And I had to make a final joke in the epilogues there. But yeah, those are the biggest things that come to my mind, honestly. Everything else I know the missions were pretty straightforward for a reason, because we have been keeping our recordings shorter, even though this one will probably be longer than an hour.
Yeah.
All right, next questions. I guess Tyler.
Was there any way to save Arthur at the end, or was it just instant death?
So that was his death was written. That was a fixed moment in time. It literally said in that particular adventure that whatever happens, it should end up with Morgan Le Fay you should have Arthur dead. Morgan should have Arthur's head and Excalibur, and the group should be outside facing Morgan's horde of chaos.
Because that bothered me so much. I was like, there's nothing we could have done to stop this. I just I know that was a bit railroady and stuff, but I mean, also I could.
Nobody reacted.
That's true too.
I did ask. At least I thought I gave the opportunity to, but maybe I was being too quick about it. Mark Clemens joked about it on Twitter on that episode.
No, you totally gave us time. Everybody was just stunned, I think.
And I think, I think that was I kind of expected that to happen too. I think that was quite appropriate for everyone to just be stunned and realize, oh wait a minute, I should have done something. So, but yeah, there's that. Who wants to be next for the round of questioning?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll be next.
All right, sounds good. Let's see. So Tyler, one question I have for you is that you initially built Scotty Madigan as a sorcerer and a runner, but you actually didn't use magic all that much. I'm curious what your thought process is on, like, I don't know if it's just because of the way you were kind of like taking your character and running with him in a certain direction, literally. Or thank you. Or what? I'm curious about that.
Well, to be honest, I felt like I didn't use my running abilities at all, really.
That's true, actually.
I felt like I used my magic a lot more than the running stuff. So now that I'm...
in combat.
At least in combat.
That's true.
I kind of wish that I had just maybe gone full-on spellcaster instead, but I don't really think that would have made much of a difference. But,
I guess I could only think of like a couple, but yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, you didn't really like try to do any tricky maneuvers or anything like that.
No, but I kind of made Scotty to be kind of this secretive magic user that was kind of hesitant to use magic. And then eventually I was just like, you know what, we're working for this secret organization that fights Flux monsters, so why not? I did think the magic system in Corporia is really fun. The ability just to be able to customize and do whatever you liked really adds like a lot of flavor narratively. So I enjoyed that a ton. So
yeah, and then basically like it's between you and the GM. Basically, there are a bunch of suggested spells for guidance and like for each of the different magic and sorcerer and witchcraft disciplines. And there are certain numbers you can use to limit things, like, you know, this is effective for a magic number of rounds or for holographic, so if the range is holographic yards or whatever, things like that. But yeah, I really think that's an elegant way of doing the magic system in it, because it's pretty new, so it's not like you have an established set of spells. Cool. All right, next.
So what was your private or personal trait?
Oh, gambling. It was gambling.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember.
I like talked about it a few times, just like in the beginning of episodes when Nick was always like, "Hey, so what are you guys doing before missions?" I was like, "In the casino."
As soon as you said it, I remembered, but until then, I was like, I don't remember if that ever came up. So,
but I never really used it too much. Maybe I should have like played Scotty better to be like more reckless and gambling more like with his life. That probably would have been more interesting, especially with a runner. But it was fun. Yeah. So that was his private trait, was that. And I think that's also why he like bet so much money on you in the fighting ring, because he was like, heck yeah.
Nice.
Where did the motivation to create Scotty the way you did? I just ask because it seems like in the past you typically gravitate towards more strength-based characters and sort of like almost like enforcers in that way. But this was, I feel like, one of your first magic casters that was primarily magic-based and dexterity-based.
Okay, so the inspiration for his character came from a character from Apex Legends, which is a shooter game. Nice. I play with Wyatt and stuff. And there's a character that is a speed junkie, kind of adrenaline guy. And I was like, oh, that'd be really fun. Oh, thank you. Really fun to play someone like that. And Corporia had like a perfect class for it. So I was like, sure. But then I was like, you know, the runner doesn't really have that much interesting stuff. So like combining it with the sorcerer would be really fun. Just because I think most of you guys played, you know, normal classes, non-magical stuff. So I figured, you know, to get a nice lay of the game, I should probably pick a magic caster. So yeah, like you said, I usually don't play those because I'm a beefy boy and I like to play the beefs. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's like a different play style. And after playing Ramus, who was like so like intense and serious, I wanted to play somebody who was like a little bit more lighthearted and could just joke around and dink and do whatever, you know? So that was kind of refreshing a little bit.
One could argue, however, that Tyler's Timmy character was a magic character.
That's true. Timmy was
a nano in Numenera, but
true. Yes.
But that is true. With our experience with Tyler, he does tend to go for more strength-based characters.
Or rogues.
I
like rogues.
Why are you looking at me?
So
because that's all you play.
What?
That's true.
Elle was not a rogue in any way, shape, or form.
Pretty much was, though.
She pretty much was. Not
She
really.
like straight up murdered a civilian.
Yeah, that's pretty roguey.
That's pretty roguey. Brianna. So Did you have a question for me?
Bastion made me do it.
Character.
Yeah, was Merlin, was he supposed to be a bigger part of the plot?
Not necessarily of the plot. I really like how Merlin is reimagined in Corporia. And I was hoping to incorporate him, incorporate him a bit more. But Vivian / Nimwe's visions were more interesting to me. Because again, like, it's the Flux in a futuristic setting.
Mm-hmm.
It was just harder for me to think of interesting things for Merlin to do or say, other than just like, because the purpose behind Merlin and Vivian were to be like the main informants. Like, Merlin has all the information, like the tech information and everything, while Vivian has actual visions and foresight. So she could see whatever Merlin couldn't. And so it's just kind of like stuff that already came with the job, basically. Like Merlin would have been the database, the AI that would have given you locations and like the database of cryptids and monsters, things like that. So,
I think the one thing with Merlin that he probably could have been more prevalent in the story if any of us had picked like a hacker-based class, because with Corporia you can like hack and it like you enter into a digital realm, kind of like Tron. So I think if we had a hacker, it probably could have added more options to
Merlin would be your god.
Yeah,
basically.
machine god.
So, yeah.
Machine god.
Although the party we had was great, like, hacker is a really, really cool archetype in Corporia, specifically because of that. And it's called interface, but spelled in leet speak, like with letters and numbers and stuff. That ability, it's almost a spellcasting ability, but for hackers. Like, everyone jumps into virtual reality, and like, if you're trying to get a file in an encrypted location, then you'd have to go past like walls or castles and like maybe a dragon or a digital dragon, and the file would be like a gem or something. Or it doesn't have to be medieval, it could be anything. Really cool stuff. And then the stats of everyone else are boosted, like your avatars are boosted by the hacker's stats. So the better the hacker is, the better everyone is. Really cool thing that, unfortunately, because no one really chose a hacker, and none of the guest players chose a hacker either. So I could have brought in an NPC hacker, but enough was already going on. So, but yeah, Merlin would have been of great use with that specifically. But as players, like, I guess also sorcery is more technologically based as well, as opposed to witchcraft, which is, so if sorcerers are hipsters, then witchers are hippies, basically. Which is why sorcerers use plastic wands and witchers use wooden wands. But anyway,
all for the environment.
Ysera Marigold, Jules' character, was a witcher, and so she had more natural-based magic. Anyway, good question. And then, Brianna, did you have a question for Tyler?
Did you? Did you have question?
Did Scotty ever get a romantic relationship?
No, it was a fling.
Was it like an online chat room?
Oh, so you mean like you get one after? Like after this whole story?
Yeah.
Or like, I feel like Scotty would not get tied down.
I didn't have any thoughts about like romantic attachments for Scotty in the epilogue. I'm just like, his focus, like his arc was more about his missing family and his own street gang and stuff.
Would you personally have added anything else to the epilogue regarding his parents? Because in the epilogue that Nick gave, it kind of ended without explaining a whole lot more of what happened with your parents and
that's
you.
True.
That was my other question. Like, how's your family doing, Scotty?
I'm assuming, like, with Valiant's help, like, they probably would make a full recovery, and I feel like he would be happy that they are safe and, like, protected, but I don't know if he would be, like, completely, like, oh, let's all, like, play family and be together, you know? He'd probably be, like, it'd probably be rough for him to like integrate back with his family after like years of being separated. So
Was it just his parents? Did he have any siblings? I don't remember that.
I don't recall any.
no, I think it was just him originally. I think the more of his family was just like people in his street gang. I wrote more stuff for the gang, like more specific members that like he interacted with and like clicked better with, and who like helped him rise up in the ranks, things like that. But
He was up in the ranks?
oh yeah, because he had magic. So everyone thought he was really
But he
fast, but
couldn't
he actually just
lie.
used magic.
Oh my gosh. You cheater.
Yeah, so I had like magic, and that's how I was so good at my job. And everyone's like, "Wow, you're just so fast." And I'm like, "Yep."
I did track.
Would you say that Scotty's a master of Magic: The Gathering of his gang?
Oh yeah, he gathers all that magic.
Anyway, like, as is to be expected with shorter seasons, which is what we're now doing, like, there are many things that we could have done to continue to explore things, but I think what we did is pretty good, and there are certainly many other avenues we could have explored if our season was longer.
Yeah, there would be.
All right, so who's next for questioning? Do we want Spencer, Brianna, or Rebecca? Spencer.
Rebecca.
or Spencer.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go first so I
Go
can
for
ask
it.
the question. Okay, so what happened to Robert's family? Like, did they all just like die off, or did they just like
Yeah.
move to different places?
Yeah,
No,
they
no,
died
no.
off.
There was a really bad accident that happened, and that's also some of the motivation of why he liked using the Utah and the public transportation, because there was a really bad traffic accident that killed his only brother and his parents. And since that point, he had somewhat of a phobia of using actual vehicles, but also like he felt guilty a little bit for that since he wasn't there at that time when they
Survivor's
all were in
guilt.
the accident.
That's like Blades of Glory. But yeah, I was curious because I remember I can't remember what it was, but like it was like you explaining there was all these pictures of you at like different family events, and then like one like they just were gone after that. So I was like, I wonder if they just moved or he moved somewhere else, or they had like a falling out, but it was a car crash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Unoriginal, but
no, I think it was pretty good.
I wouldn't have expected that of Robert because he's like not a very sad guy.
mm-hmm.
Well, they were self-driving cars, and the programming glitched out.
Well, more like maybe fluxed out? I don't know.
Ooh, fluxed. It got fluxed.
King Arthur wants your parents dead.
Oh gosh. No.
Well, at least he's dead.
Anyway,
That'll teach him.
my question for Spencer is, you were one of the first people to come up with your character concept. You were inspired by the protagonist of the Lego Movie and how just very normal he was. And you thought it'd be fun where everyone has all these powers and abilities, but Robert is just Robert. You were concerned at the time that there wouldn't be much to him. How do you feel about your character's development and his place in this story now?
I think as I kept playing him, I realized more and more things about him that I wanted him to be. One of the things that kind of started sticking out to me just as I was playing him and like getting more feedback on him was just the perspective of just in real life, looking at people that are sometimes awkward or below average in whatever regard. And people almost like feel bad for them, so they like them for that reason, almost like a pity like. And I wanted the complexity of Robert. It wasn't shown in the podcast, but he had his family liked him for just being a member of his family, not for any sort of skill or ability or anything that he had, but just kind of that he was a member of the family. And that was something that I kind of developed in my mind, at least, and part of his motivation as I kept playing him more and more. Because I felt like it's really easy to look at somebody like Robert either in a game or in real life, and be like, oh, they're the comic relief, so I have to like them. Like, they're so pitiful that I have to enjoy their existence to validate them as a human being. Even though I personally believe that inherently people have a huge amount of significance. And that's kind of what I wanted Robert to be. And that's what he was personally to me as I was playing him. So that was something that I kind of developed behind the scenes. And I think we texted about that, Nick. We texted a little bit about that. And that was something that developed behind the scenes that didn't ever come out in the context of the podcast, but was something that was really motivating to me. And I think even though perhaps it wasn't very clear in actually playing him or the actions that he made, I came to really, really like him for that reason.
I feel like, and I haven't felt this way with like the other characters in the other seasons, but like I feel like our characters like became friends over time. And like I feel like we saw, and that's just me, but I feel like our characters themselves like got closer over time.
Well, they all had a common goal.
Yeah, but usually like campaigns are just like you're only together because you're playing together. Like your characters don't have any like they don't get along at all.
Well, I see that, like, I felt that with looking at the relationship between Elle and Robert and Elle and Britta and Scotty for sure. And I guess a little bit between Scotty and Robert, but I didn't really see that necessarily with Britta and Robert. I guess a little
Scotty
bit,
and
but
Elle.
Bullied him so much.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
or
like
Scotty
Britta was
and
a
Elle.
bully.
Yeah, a bit.
Like I was listening to the podcast, and at one of the points when Robert was doing his side thing, he's like, "Oh, Elle hates me." I was like, "No, I don't, Robert." Like in my office with the door closed, and that's what I want. I was like, "No."
But I mean, yeah, as I think about previous seasons, it's not like usually at the end of a campaign, except for season 3 though, like the epilogue kind of kept a lot of the people like together, that the epilogue that Spencer made. But the 2 seasons before that, I think people kind of generally went their separate ways after that. So I can see your point, Brianna.
It's true though.
What was Robert's weakness or whatever personal trait?
Yeah.
We all know their
Irritable bowels.
weaknesses.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was so funny.
That was great.
Yeah.
I kind of let that one die a little bit. It came up occasionally.
It did. I mean, the fact that it did come up occasionally was great. And again, if we were using flux and build points more often, I would have given you flux points when that came into play. But because I was just giving them to you every session, I didn't pay much attention to that in the moments. So, yeah. Did anyone get to ask Spencer a question?
What happened to Robert?
What happened to him?
Yeah.
So, after the epilogue, it's more or less exactly what Nick said. Like in the epilogue, that's kind of what I was texting him a lot about, trying to figure it out. But I felt like
Robert the Rat.
Oh, Robert the Rat. I still get confused. I think he and Robert just like continued to live together just happily. And I think Robert the Rat eventually, like after many years past the normal life expectancy of an average rat, passed away peacefully with Robert. I think they just were good friends until the bitter end.
That's
Another
very
classic
sweet.
NPC that wasn't supposed to happen.
I mean, that one came, like, again, another one I didn't expect, but that one also came out organically, which I thought was nice. All right, I believe...
I can go next since
All right.
Brianna's eating.
I think there was one thing that I wanted to clear up just in case
Okay.
like any listeners had this question. If there was any romantic interest in Robert to Elle, and no, there wasn't. It was just a sincere, like, really good friendship
Yeah.
between the two.
Yeah, that's how I
And-
felt about it too.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't.
that's exactly what it was.
I
but
thought
I didn't
it was
want
raging
anybody.
love.
No, I just thought that should be cleared up in case there are any questions about that.
Yeah, and in the epilogue, I basically used a lot of what Spencer just straight up told me. Al, to him, was like a friend he could sit with at lunch and that kind of thing and whatever. Rebecca, it's Rebecca's turn for the round of questions.
All right. If nobody minds, I'll go first.
Go for it.
So, Rebecca, it seemed like your character and the person who you played as Elle became the moral compass or the leader that actually kept everybody else on track. The herder, yeah, the German Shepherd, if you will.
The mother player.
Is that what you wanted for Elle? Did you see her going in a different direction, and because the three of us chose goofy characters, you weren't able to explore a different side?
I mean, I kind of always had Elle as, like, someone who had been working more, like, almost a secretarial position in Valiant before she had her awakening moment. And so I guess she was always going to be a bit more of a straight-laced character, a bit more on target, but I did not see her evolving quite as, like, come on, guys, this is what we're doing. Let's keep going that way.
You were, like, running around with, like, 3 little CEOs you couldn't stand.
Yeah, that was not my intention creating Elle. It just kind of happened with her personality and everyone else's personalities.
Is that something that you wish was different? Do you wish that you would have been able to go a different way with her?
I was worried that, like, you guys might feel like Elle kind of kept coming in and being, like, I guess, taking over a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, like, it just felt natural for her character.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Nick was bribing you to push the story.
Were you really?
Bribing you with time on the Switch or something?
You can play more Fire Emblem if you progress the story.
You know
I'll
I
delete my
wouldn't.
file so you can marry more.
You know I
save
wouldn't
over
do
your
that.
gameplay.
Were you really thinking that, Tyler?
No, I was
okay.
joking.
I was going to say, it sounded like a joke, but I wasn't sure how much truth. Sometimes people tell jokes with truth in them.
I mean,
So-
I would totally make Brianna do that if I needed to progress the story.
And I'd be like, no, I'm gonna go buy jewelry and have a love interest
No, but, like,
in every town.
as long as you guys didn't think Elle was too pushy, I'm fine with how she turned out.
No,
But that was
no,
what I was worried about.
I really liked Elle. I just was nervous that we were forcing you, Rebecca, into... we were railroading you as a player.
Okay.
No, if I had wanted her to go a different way, or it felt like she should have gone a different way, I would have gone that way with her. But
Mm-hmm.
I again, part of my joy of being a character is I have a backstory, so I have their personality, and then just seeing how they evolve based on what I've given them.
Yeah.
Can I go
Plus-
next?
Well, plus Rebecca's...
No.
Just one quick comment. Rebecca's the kind of person who would, like, if she did have a problem, then she normally would be honest about it. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, I would have called you on it if I was like,
all right, go
if it
ahead.
really bothered me.
Go ahead, Brianna.
So Britta was very tried to. She saw Elle as like the only other girl in the group so like obviously Elle knew what was going on because she's a girl. Britta's sexist, guys. But
I couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell that either. The constant rhetoric.
Did Elle like appreciate that? Like, did Elle see Britta as a friend? How did Elle think? What did she think about that?
Yeah, I think Elle saw Britta as like the closest thing she had to a girlfriend. Someone to talk about more that, you know, you hang out with your girlfriends, you talk about things with them you wouldn't necessarily talk about with other people.
Did you guys talk about boys?
Yeah, probably a lot
Slumber
about
parties?
how much Lance was a total gumwad.
Oh, there was that one time that you asked, like, who had the best legs. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Or like how you kept pushing her to be more assertive with her love life. Where she was like, but you know, appreciated getting that from someone, even if she was never going to do anything about it.
Like, you know what Lance probably needs? He needs a brother. You probably need to date his brother, and he'd probably be so much better than him.
Kenneth Bridgman, Percival was there, so no one
Oh.
got on that.
Because he's a nerd. All right, my turn.
Yeah.
What made you decide to be the Lady of Shalott versus like other maybe Arthurian legends? Or I don't really know Arthurian legend very much. If there's very many females in that, but
There's like
There are
5.
there's 5.
there
I
are
don't
much
know.
fewer, but there's a good amount to choose from even then,
Um,
if you look hard enough.
I don't know. I just always kind of found it an interesting story, and I thought it would be interesting. I didn't quite think it all the way through because I kind of didn't make the connection that Gwen was Morgan, was Lance. So even knowing that Gwen was Morgan, it didn't quite connect until we'd already started the campaign, and that's when I was like, oh, what have I done to Elle?
So true, though.
I thought it'd be kind of interesting it was very interesting playing a character who's totally in love with this guy who's he's not a great his story, he's not like a great guy. He totally steals his one of his best friend's girl, and despite trying to be okay with them being together, but her having to just be okay with it and wanting what's best for him when Morgan comes along, and then when Gwen comes along, and then as soon as Gwen is revealed as Morgan, that's when Elle kind of was like, I guess, pushed over the edge. So I saw her reaction to that reveal being a lot more violent and emotional for her.
So then why, I guess this is a second follow-up question, knowing that it wasn't Gwen, why did you want Elle to die? I know like the Lady of Shalott dies because of the sadness of her heartbreaking, but like you had a chance.
I felt like, I don't know.
This is your opening.
Chance!
This is your shot on Lance.
We were talking about how we'd have to find our epilogues, and I just was thinking about it, and I was like, she's not gonna have a happy life. She's gonna be that unrequited love that, because Lance was never going to feel that way about her. And also, I was like, it seems more likely to me that ideally, which is pretty much what happened, but that whole going up against Morgan Le Fay with all that pent-up aggression, being a little more reckless and, taking that hit and dying that would just seem more, I guess, poetic.
Mm-hmm.
And felt right for her character.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And that, like, she's finally at peace.
Or is she?
That she was never going to get in life.
And is possibly surrounded by hot angel boys.
Hot
Yeah,
angel
possibly.
boys. That's canon.
That's canon.
They're just waiting for that angel to join them.
Anyway, so my question was actually same as Tyler's. But I thought of another one. So as we said before, with the big reveal of Gwen Wright actually being Morgan Le Fay and not Guinevere, Rebecca as a person knew that much earlier on because I discovered Corporia a year or so ago, and
Told me about it.
I told you about it. I didn't know when we would ever play it or whatever. And then finally this came up, and I'm like, oh, well, Rebecca already knows and whatever. But I knew from experience that Rebecca is pretty good at staying away from metagaming. Do you think? So my question is: do you think, Rebecca, that you would have played any different if you hadn't known versus the fact that you did know?
Possibly a little bit differently, but at the same time, like, her reluctance to accept the fact that Gwen was Gwen, or Morgan was Gwen, like, that was always going to be there because she wanted things to, like, there was that, this is the way things are and I can deal with it, but if she's really Gwen, that's going to be really painful to see. And that was where that doubt was coming from when she's like, well, are we sure this is Gwen?
At one point, Elle must have had that moment where she's like, I knew it. I told you so.
Which, by the way, speaking of, since we're on the subject of Morgan Le Fay, shout out to our voice actress. She calls herself Harley in the network. Fantastic job. Yeah. Really. I mean, we've told her as much several times before, but she had too much fun being a villainous, having a villain role. So.
Well, she did a great job. Like, the audio, like, that's like the one thing I really loved about this season, where those like intro audio clips were just like so cryptic. Like, were those part of the adventure, or did you just write those yourself?
I actually wrote those. I wrote all of them. Those are all entirely original. I wrote those because after I'd figured out what I wanted the basic plot to be, which is why I made sure things happened at certain times so that, because I wrote all those lines for the voice actors to read before we even started recording. So, but I made them vague enough so that there were still a lot of things that could happen. I just wanted to make sure that by episode 8 or by episode 9 or something, you got the ring from the museum. By episode 6, you heard about Jeremy Lee, or at least briefly, or things like that.
It was so good, especially the last one for episode 10, when she just said showtime. Oh man, that was like, after getting the reveal, it was like, oh man. It was perfect.
And I actually, at that point, I was actually not sure if if the reveal was going to happen before or after the Showtime thing, because I wasn't entirely. I thought that episode 10 would be the episode of the reveal and then the final showdown in the same episode. Didn't end up working that way, but it still worked out perfectly. So yeah, I had a lot of fun writing those. That's all. And Harley did a superb job with that. I think that's everyone for Rebecca. I think Brianna is all that remains, I believe.
I know you guys have lots of questions.
All right, so I'll go ahead and ask a question first. Well, you already have that question.
Don't ask my question. It's mine.
Ask it.
Get your own question.
So my question is similar to what Tyler asked Rebecca, but this time to you. You chose to also do an awakened character, not a knight errant, but a lister who was also awakened, which that works. You chose Isolde. I'm curious as to why.
Well, I went through all these characters and the legends, and all the good ones were taken because I wanted to play it's a sorceress lady, but she turned out to be Vivienne and all this stuff.
Oh, Nimue, yeah.
Yeah, Nimue, yeah. So I went with just the most romantic story I could find, and that's it. That was the crux of it. Why I chose Isolde.
Are you pleased with your decision? Like, I think it seemed, at least in the story, the main thing of Isolde coming out was like Tristan's bow, essentially, or like Lance brought it up once or twice or something.
Well, like solidifying Morgan's backstory was like a big one because she's like, "What did you say at this party?" And they're like, "I overheard."
What did Morgan say at this party?
Oh, yeah.
To you. I had to bite down my reaction on that one.
Yeah, that was a fun one to manipulate, basically, because you asked specifically for what Morgan said to, I think, what was it, to Guinevere, I think. And the funny thing is, both Guinevere and Morgan would know, and so it works both ways. I loved it. I didn't even plan that. I couldn't have worked better if I planned it, and I didn't even. But anyway.
Yes.
2 questions. Did you have the hots for Scotty? Did you think Scotty was going to be the reincarnated Tristan?
All right. Here's how Britta saw Scotty. You know when you're super hungry and you don't want to go out. Oh, okay.
Well, they said it. All right, continue.
Britta was pure and chaste. She saved herself for Tristan, but
That's not true.
That's not even the original story.
Oh yeah, it's not. Well, there's 2 Isoldes. That's the thing.
It's a tragic love triangle. The classic tale is a tragic love triangle. But anyway, continue. Go ahead. Sorry.
Question. What was Britta's first debut that made her like explode and become the star that she was?
Hold up. I did not answer how Britta saw Scotty.
Okay, sorry. Keep going.
When you're starving and you're at home but you don't want to run to the grocery store, what do? You scrape the bottom of the barrel and you look for snacks. And
pull out the peanut butter.
Metaphorically speaking, Scotty was that delicious freezer burnt last pizza pocket in the freezer. That's how she saw. So
nice.
You know, if everyone else in the world was dead, yeah. She'd take you over like peanut butter.
That's not even remotely praise.
All right. Okay, maybe the attraction was higher than that. It was like finding a Hot Pocket, like a normal Hot Pocket.
Well, that's an improvement.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty good.
At least it's edible.
Yeah, it's edible. She's like,
Okay.
if you weren't into drugs, I'd hit that.
I should have asked this question.
All right, what's next?
So what made Britta a superstar? Like, what role?
Okay, one of the things I wish I could, now knowing what Britta's like, I would have gone back and changed how she was a star. But essentially the storyline I went with for Corporia is that Britta rose to fame through, she was like on like children, like Broadway shows, you know how they have like Missoula for children, you can like audition for it. Well, basically she was in this play for like, I don't know, like Cinderella, and there's a scout in the audience. They saw her, they really liked her, and they're like, okay, here, you can like, here's a really good agent, you can talk to them. And basically like Britta like just got really lucky. She got a good the agent, like when he met her, he really liked her face and how good she was at like remembering lines and dancing, and like she was mediocre in talent and stuff, but she really exploded thanks to like connections and just a lot of luck. And then she when this started, she was starring in, you know, like a Game of Thrones parallel. She was in like the Dark Lord of Durkholm, basically. But I never really talked about how she was famous, and I wish I could go back and incorporate that more.
I guess it was just such, like, if the fact that Britta's rep score was literally 100, like, it could not be higher, which I kept thinking of Taylor Swift, because that's the first example that comes to mind of a celebrity that pretty much everyone knows the name and face of.
If I could sing, I would have had Britta be a singer. But poor Spencer already has to edit enough. Like, he shouldn't listen to me try to sing. Auto-tune me.
So I know, like, at the beginning, the first episode, you seemed very unsure about your character.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just wondering,
Didn't
like,
even know
how...
the name.
Yeah, like, how do you feel it? Do you feel like she evolved and took form over the time? And how was it playing a character where you weren't super sure about where it was going or where it came from, I guess?
Terrifying. Because I was excited to play her, and I loved the A-lister class a lot. And then I had, like, 20 ideas for this character, and I tried to fit them all into one. And then I just, like, you know, I went with my first instinct, and it worked out from there. She's just
I like remember you wanted to be like an astrophysicist or something
Yeah,
like that. And we're like,
she had really high like biology and like chemistry attributes that she never used.
So you were talking and texting Nick during the debate with Jeremy Lee, and you said that he did not cooperate. What exactly did you expect to happen? You were kidnapped and had literally no leverage. What were you expecting to happen there, and why did you tell Nick that he wasn't playing along?
Basically,
what else did you want?
I was less
I think we had
realistic
different
than you
ideas
guys.
of what playing along meant exactly at the time. I think there was... Go ahead.
collusion.
Well, guys, I just had faith in my character. I really thought she could do the impossible. That's it.
So what would be the impossible? Did you think that she was going to get out with absolutely no consequence? What?
Yeah.
What?
I did. Is that so bad? I thought she'd be able to be like a social media rep, and that's it.
I mean, that is what ended up happening.
The impossible happened.
Yeah, guys. Like, I don't understand why you don't believe
Why are
me.
you angry? She did the impossible.
So I was a bit surprised when Brianna sent me that. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I didn't really quite understand what you meant. I thought I understood what you meant by playing along or whatever.
I wanted my way, basically.
That didn't
Typical
register until that moment.
Typical Brianna.
I thought playing along was more like in the roleplay sense or whatever. But and so I was playing as Jeremy, and I was trying to make an entertaining scene by being an entertainingly upset Jeremy. But it's difference of communication.
I really enjoyed that scene. It was fun to argue with Jeremy and call him like...
That's all I wanted. I wanted to have fun arguing. So,
Man, I was such a bully to Jeremy too.
Yeah, you were.
You were.
I mean,
I just had no idea how you could have expected to get out.
I was expecting much worse.
I was totally expecting much worse. I was expecting Nick just to go, well, okay, so we're gonna kill you and nobody's gonna know.
see,
Like, that was my expectation.
Even though that is oddly enough more realistic in a world of corporations and with someone like Jeremy Lee. Call me a wuss if you want, but that's just something I just don't generally do even as a GM. Like, I might do it with a few choice NPCs.
Nick, when you get in arguments, you just say, I'm going to kill you and leave you and nobody's going to find you. Is that...
No comment.
No answer.
No comment. Do you endorse cannibalism?
No.
I mean, there was the one
No.
time where I said, "Where I hide
Hesitation.
the bodies."
Anyway, but
Hesitate.
but yeah, like for someone like Arthur, for example, like, I mean, that happened. But for players though, that I don't like being totally unfair to players. Like saying, unless I'm running them through Tomb of Horrors in D&D, then I'm just gonna say, you know what, your character straight up dies because you decided to do this, and that kills you. So, you know,
happened
that's
to
Tomb
me.
of Horrors for you.
I can testify
that happened
to
to
this.
Tyler's character when we did a one shot of Tomb of Horrors. So
I went into a
there are literal
sphere of annihilation.
Oh,
I was annihilated.
I thought that's when you dragged like the corpse up the tubes
Oh,
and went to jail.
that was really funny too.
Well, I mean,
I thought you effectually died.
So that I told you, like, you knew the danger on the way. Like, that's the point, right? So anyway,
that was really funny.
What was the worst that could happen though? Like, Jeremy, what could he have done to her?
he could have. He had enough authority, especially in Bastion, to make Britta a drone. Basically, arrested and pretty much in his situation, but his subordinate. That's probably one of the worst things that he could have done, which would have ruined Britta's career. Definitely.
Be stuck with Jeremy Lee for 15 years.
You'd just be saying, "Shut up, bye."
Continuously.
Britta would learn
Why
that.
aren't
Shut
you
up,
doing
bye.
Why aren't you doing the thing?
Oh, I want to add that's like Britta's new
cream
tagline.
with the coffee.
And all her videos, that's how she ends them. Okay, shut up, bye. Because she's a Bastion rip.
Anyway,
Do we want to review the game now?
Yeah, let's jump into
yeah, let's do that. Excellent.
Was it
I'll
fun?
go ahead and
Yes.
I'll go ahead and start, guys, if that's all right.
Fun's up.
So, I mean, I'm biased because I was the one who suggested that we play this game in the first place, and the reason for that was, and I was very adamant about this because I although the mechanics are a bit different, especially with the magic system, the setting, the flavor of this game is so unique and well conceived. And even reading through the rule book, you feel like you're reading a piece of the actual world as well, of the city. And the fact that you can place the city anywhere you want, the fact that you can make it yours, and that you get to combine the best of cyberpunk and corporate, the best of cyberpunk, The Office, and fantasy, Arthurian legend, is just wonderful. I will say, just a couple of quick notes here. I mean, we didn't play the game perfectly. Mark Clemens would know that especially. And probably but the biggest regret I have with how I ran this was when anyone takes a wound, takes wounds, they were supposed to have taken penalties. I started doing this in the first couple episodes, but I just kept forgetting. For example, like how you roll kind of determined where you hit the person, and if you inflict a wound, or if you do a successful hit, especially if they're wounded, then they're supposed to get a -2 or a -1 to movement if it was the legs, or to attack if it was the arms, or to everything if it was their head or their chest or something. But and that should have been both ways as well. I did not apply it to the characters. I didn't to the players or to the cryptids or monsters or anything. And I really should have. That probably would have made combat a bit more exciting. So
Go for the head, like dodgeball in gym class.
so that's probably the biggest And I mean, flux points and build points, that's another big part of the game mechanics, but we figured that out. It was, the penalties for taking hits. I should have done that. That would have made combat more exciting, because we were trying to make combat more exciting halfway through the season. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but the stuff all points to very simple mechanics. You choose the figure out the stats you're rolling, then add the flux dice to it, and that's pretty much it. Obviously, I like it a lot. This is my idea. I know Mark Clemens and Brabblemark Press have written other games since Corporia. Corporia's been out for several years and successful funding with Kickstarter. But I also just like all the supplements and everything also make for just really great flavor, and that's my favorite part of the game.
I really liked the mechanics of it, specifically the rolling in combat where it was roll for offense and roll for defense. I think that's a really good mechanic that more games should incorporate, because I feel like in real life, I mean, obviously, I've been in like a billion fights, so I know how this is. When somebody attacks you, you have the ability to dodge or like do something else. And I think that's a really good thing that it incorporates. I think Numenera has an interesting system as well, where you can choose to like dodge out of the way or block it. And I like the way that Corporia has it in the system where you're able to try and dodge or describe something, but you roll for it still. I like the competition between those rolls, and I think that's good. I also really like the fact that it's a D6 based game. This is the first one that I've ever played, and I thought that it was a really good system using the 2 die. The thing that I do have as a complaint on that, though, is the fact that if you roll, it can easily break the game if you start rolling 6s a lot, because then everything is just instantaneously like passable. If you just roll 2 6s in a row, that's 12 no matter what. And as you get later in the game, you're probably going to be able to pass whatever the DC is. So I think like that is something that can fall apart pretty quickly, as long as the dice are favorable to you. But with 2 dice, you have a decent chance of being able to roll at least 1 6.
It's called a target number in this game, but I mean DC, TN.
Yeah, target
whatever.
number, sorry.
But yeah, the target numbers are rather low. Like, it ranges from like 3 to the very easiest to like 15 or 17 for like among the highest or whatever. And sometimes I did feel like they were kind of low, like you guys kept making all these numbers.
The other complaint that I had of the game, and I think this might just be because we did a written adventure, is I'm not sure how it would do outside of Arthurian legend, because that's what it was based upon. Would you be able to run a homebrew campaign with this sort of system within Corporia? Would you be able to do something that wasn't based on King Arthur and Morgan Le Fay and Lancelot?
I think there is enough material here where you could. And actually, another big part of this game that I never got into is called the Grail system. Grail is an acronym. I'm trying to remember what all the letters mean, but it basically goes over the like what a mission entails. Forgot what the G stands for, but like reconnaissance,
Goal,
acquisitions, infiltration,
Laziness.
lose.
Lance.
Lance.
He's
Anyway,
always
like,
in every mission.
There's this there's an actual like obviously the acronym was Grail because of the Holy Grail, but it was actually, it could apply to any mission. Like, you're introduced to the mission. There are options for, there are like you gather information about the mission. Then there are options for like either fighting or like sneaking in or things like that. Then there's like the cleanup afterwards. That's basically what the Grail quote unquote system is. I mean, it's kind of like, it's generally intuitive, but so there is that, first of all, and the rule book does have a section for game masters, or they're called directors in this game, for how to set up a mission. So they give you that. Also, there are, admittedly, the quote unquote monster manual is not extensive, but there are still a handful of cryptids in there that I did not use at all. And there's also some more cryptids or monsters that are in expansions as well. And then there are other things for like, vehicle combat, and like Scotty could have had familiar if he really wanted. There were rules for that. There was enough world building stuff in there where I think, but then again, at the same time, you probably would have to kind of create a fair amount as a director as well. So,
well, I feel like if you switched it out for another
mechanic
background
system?
setting, well, not mechanic, but like another
background
background setting. So instead of Arthurian legend, if you wanted to do more like
Blade Runner or something?
you're fighting against evil side or whatever, like you could very easily switch out. You could very easily switch out characters to work around whatever you want.
I agree.
It doesn't have to be Arthurian legend.
Do you think that would, because that's kind of the name of the game, do you think that betrays the point of it? And that might be a question for Mark, Is that something that he would consider heresy?
Well, for the game Corporia, for the way that Corporia was like, the way it was marketed like in its Kickstarter and its release and everything, you could argue yes. But at the same time, also, like on the website of Brabblemark Press, there's a section on the site that talks about like fan-made materials and like what messages you should include. They don't talk about Corporia; they talk about the Grail system, and so like this supports the Grail system or something like that, which even though it says Grail, again the acronym, the mission structure is not specific to Arthurian legend specifically. So which. That suggests that at least in Mark/Brabblemark Press's mind, or the intention was that, yes, you could make things not necessarily Arthurian for the Grail system.
I would also question if we played some of the items right as far as the grenades go. Those seem to be broken. I would ask if that was played correctly or if those should be recalibrated, because one of those knocked out the entire
combat
guard. The entire combat at Bastion.
That may have been the stat block I was using specifically. They do give sample stat blocks, and I could have made more difficult ones, but I thought that like there was standard security guard, and then there was like more military grade security. And so I used those for the Bastion group, and I kind of nothing is ever given like a challenge rating or anything like that. I think everything, character creation is a lot more nebulous. Or no, character leveling up is a lot more nebulous in there.
Yeah.
And so...
Plus Nick's luck with dice rolls.
That too.
Nick doesn't roll well, period.
True.
That's
Someone
a statement
had to
of
bring
fact.
he
love
has
you,
a rough
honey.
time rolling. he's angry.
Well, that wasn't even me. That wasn't even me. Actually... Well, that
You
wasn't even me
rolled
rolling.
stuff on them.
Oh, wait, I did. Yeah, that was like for them to avoid.
Because we would have been able to roll if someone threw a grenade at us.
True. Yeah.
But I also
I
threw it
didn't
in
roll.
I threw a smoke grenade first, and then they didn't roll because they had no way of knowing that another one was rolled.
That was
in there.
it.
That was just
I'm
smart.
just like,
That was tactical.
I'm just like, you know what? Good on you. I'm happy to reward strategy.
So, speaking about combat, I think that's one of the big weaknesses of this system. I just feel like it's very limited on what you can do. So, I mean, I enjoy combat in RPG games. I know that's not really like a big thing, but I enjoy like you really have to really push yourself to like make it strategic. Like, for example, Robert, like, throwing that smoke grenade and then throwing the grenade bomb blew up, smart play. But I just feel like it was always just like either I used magic, which was really fun, and I think that made it very interesting for me, but it was like, if I wasn't using magic, it was literally, okay, I'm going to shoot, and that's it, It was always shooting. And I also felt that also pertained to a lot of the creatures also. They were these like mythical creatures, and I know some of them had... abilities, but I feel like they should have maybe been given more,
Part of it could have been the way I was running them as well, or combat in general, because like I said, I failed to incorporate the whole penalty thing. And in an effort to try to keep combat simple. I didn't go over like literally everything. I really should have written a document about that, because you guys didn't have access to the core rulebook. Part of it is probably my fault, but at the same time, combat is fairly straightforward as well.
I think that's pretty true of most RPGs, though. Like, if you consider it, looking at Dungeons and Dragons, you either have your standard melee attack, or you have your ranged attack,
true.
or
Because
you have a spell. The spell is a lot more robust.
Yeah.
But if you look through other systems, to me it seems like combat really is straightforward unless the players and the GM really engage and give deeply descriptive narratives of what's going on.
That's
Otherwise, it is just... I think it can really easily become a game of war where it's just dice rolling and there's nothing else said, where it's just, I shoot my bow, you hit, okay, next person.
Yeah, I think just coming from D&D and like Pathfinder, I think it's like those classes you get like abilities to be able to do additional things, and you can kind of synergize with other players.
That's true.
And I think this one kind of lacked that, and also it lacked like in that for the monsters too.
It's more about assets and how you use the assets you have. And there probably were a handful of assets that I didn't use because I tried to focus on, like, for example, the Phage. I tried to focus on, like, she has web and acid, but, like, a lot of monsters have, like, a horror thing where you have to roll a valor check to save against, like, being scared or something, or other things like that. I was trying to, knowing that it was, like, basically 3-on-1, 4-on-1, that I tried to focus on like some signature abilities, but
I just think I just wish the Flux monsters felt more monstrous, more mythical. Because I just felt like it was just like Spencer said, sometimes it was a slugfest. The Phage was cool. I like that a lot because it was like she webbed people up and then like shot acid at them and they couldn't move. I love that. So
but like to your point, like going to the Chimera where it was just claws.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know how the monsters are written. I haven't seen the stat blocking and how it works, if there are special abilities, but that's one of the big things that I was kind of, a little disappointed in the system. But besides that, I mean, magic in this game was like amazing. I like loved that. And I think that's what made combat fun for me, is because I had my certain types of magic that did certain types of things, and then I could just be as creative as I wanted to do whatever I wanted. And then you gave me a number I had to roll, and if I passed that number, then I could do it. So really well done with magic. I thought the system was great.
I think with that type, that is the liberty that you have with magic in general. There's so much leeway that it's as creative as the person who's using it.
Yeah.
So like in Dungeons and Dragons, there are certain things that you can do that aren't necessarily a spell, but because, like, for example, Ricardo in season 1, he was able to use the light, whatever, the cloak of light or whatever, and it blinded enemies. Like, you could hypothetically do that in Corporia. It would just be, you would have to come up with that on your own. And I think that was something that we didn't always do. But I think I see what you're saying as far as like wishing that beasts were more mythical.
That's one of the big pitfalls, I think, of the game. That was like the big glaring one for me. The one thing I also I'm sorry if I'm being really negative about the game. I love the game. Really fun to play. I felt like the end boss was really lame. I wish Morgan had...
Yeah.
Another thing with this, another stat block I used. Yeah. I feel like, again, that combat would have been more stressful if I actually incurred the penalties on you guys for being wounded, which I didn't.
Ooh, that's true, because we were all wounded.
Britta was dead.
I think with that, though, it's just a general pitfall of all games in general that they don't... When you're facing a big bad, it never feels that bad when it's 4-on-1. You always have to have all these stupid little minions that just gum up everything because you have to roll for like 15 other people because you have to make it competitive. I think what games need to start doing is having multiple initiative orders for the big bad. So they go like 3 times in the initiative order. So even though you're just facing one person, they have 3 opportunities to attack.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the point of legendary actions for D&D, right? And I know a couple other games that do that as well. But I mean, it was for that very reason that there were minions and stuff that made the end of season 3 so difficult, at least at first.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
But because. I mean, I guess I could have added minions and stuff.
Saved us.
I could have added more minions, like by Morgan's side when you're actually fighting her. But the episode was also getting pretty long already, and I didn't want to drag out the finale either. But I do see your point, definitely.
Because I feel like our hardest fights were all the ones where we have multiple opponents. Like when we were fighting Jules and her dad.
Oh, that was tough.
That was a hard fight. When we were
Not
fighting
for
one
Robert.
person.
Granted, Robert wasn't there for about half of it.
But, you know, when there's multiple people against multiple people, it changes the dynamic of the fight.
Yeah.
As opposed to when all 4 of you can gang up on one person.
Yeah,
that's true. I just wish Morgan like had some like cool magic, or like maybe she used Excalibur that was like corrupted and did some like crazy stuff. That would just be super
I could have
dope.
thought of... You're right that I could have thought of more things to add to... I kind of read her stat block straight up, and I could have added more stuff there. So,
but I mean, the story was still great. You know, I loved it.
I agree with Nick, and I sided with Nick on this one because 2 hours was already a butt ton to edit. I cut 20 minutes of that episode. 20 minutes.
And looking back, I was so tired.
Oh, we all were.
I was freaking exhausted, but it was great.
I mean,
it was so much fun.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
It was
fun. Especially like...
I was slow on the pickup
Jules,
on a few things.
Anyway, Rebecca and/or Brianna, any additional thoughts?
I enjoyed it. I felt like it was an easy enough system to learn that it seems like a good gateway role-playing game to get people interested in it, because it was it was easy enough to pick up on. I feel like there's some games that would be a harder first-time game when you're not familiar with how they work, that are harder to learn the rules and stuff.
And to that, I agree with you, Rebecca. With that, because it's also Arthurian legend, which is something that people have a vague knowledge of to begin with. So it is more of a gateway thing as opposed to doing something like Dungeons and Dragons, where the only thing that people know of is just
the classes.
the
classes, like Lord of the Rings, maybe,
nerdy.
or Game of Thrones, maybe.
So I agree with you. I think it's a less intimidating game, even from that perspective.
And most people understand corporate stuff. Even if they don't work in a corporation setting or office setting, they've watched The Office. So, yeah. Anything you wanted to add, Brianna?
I agree with everything Becca said, and also just there is a lot in the game that I wish I'd utilized. Like, I know that there is public and private traits, and I had some for Brit in my head, but like I never made it official, so I never used it. But I loved that. I thought that was a great mechanic of the game, and there are just other mechanics too that I'm forgetting right now. But I really enjoyed the game overall. I think it's really solid.
I also really enjoyed the therapy session that we recorded. I'll be honest, that was really a fun exploration.
That was
in Robert's
cool.
journal.
all the little things we added into like the interim to make up for half of us being busy with life, I think was excellent. This, in spite of all the things that all the things we mentioned that the game could improve on, it does lean heavily on its world building, and so the fact that we added more world building in our own campaign strengthened that, which I liked.
So just to kind of summarize, positives were definitely specific mechanics such as combat, the fact that there was offensive and defensive roles, the fact that it's a very easy game to get into, and simplistic in character creation and just starting in general, and also specific mechanics such as the personality traits of characters. Is there anything else that we said was a really good thing that they included?
The setting and the unique classes.
Yeah, just a cool concept, and yeah, the archetypes.
Archetypes were awesome.
Yes.
There are so many of them. If you wanted, I could list them all here for the purpose of the podcast.
It was hard to pick.
If I can even find them.
I also really like the leveling up in this system too.
Yes.
I thought that was a really good way of being able to build a character. I thought that was really cool.
Oh yeah. Did you want me to briefly share the list of all the possible archetypes in this game?
No,
that's fine. That's fine. We can
Fair
post
enough.
about it. What we'll do
That's
is
true.
we'll post it on our website with the reviews, episodes, all the content. I like to display the game and all the positives and great stuff that they made for it.
And then things that we thought were a little tricky or not the best included. What do we want to say there?
What Tyler shared especially was that the monsters and the combat could have felt more epic and special. Yeah, the fact that the monsters or cryptids in this game didn't feel fantastic enough, I guess.
Yeah, so I think it's that mostly. It's just they just felt like they were, normal human beings in this world basically, and so I think giving them more abilities that aren't just like, normal attacks or would spice things up and make them like maybe you have to discover certain weaknesses to defeat them, or I don't know. And then I think the other one was combat could be bland unless you role play very well and you describe things very well.
When you rolled really well, it kind of broke the number system.
Rolling the exploding sixes.
That's true.
Is almost like an automatic success.
It's kind of like when you crit with sneak attack as a rogue in D&D.
Do I need to roll sneak attack dice? I'm pretty sure I kill him, right?
Just tell me he's dead.
128.
So I think overall it's a good game, very good to get into.
Yeah.
I give it B+.
Cool. There you have it. Spencer's grade. Done. Thank you very much. So
Spencer's grade.
Apparently. Thank you very much, Mark Clemens, by the way, especially for, first of all, making the game. And second of all, listening to our podcast. It's really cool. It was really cool to interact, hear your reactions, basically, to the episodes on Twitter and stuff. And it's always really cool and gratifying to hear, what you had to say about our episodes, as I'm sure it is for you as the creator of this game, that after, 5 years or 4 or 5 years since this game was released, that more people have played it. So cool. I'm glad everyone had a fun season. I certainly did. It was great to be the GM or director of this. So, and I look forward to Afterlife, our next one shot that we're trying out, as well as, Wrath and Glory. We'll see.
Man.
It's gonna be brutal.
You're gonna
Spencer and I have played in Warhammer and Warhammer 40K in the past with Tyler.
I know I might be a little obsessed. Sorry, guys.
But if you didn't think the creatures or cryptids in this campaign were fantastical enough, well, next season Tyler's gonna bring out some big guns. I'm sure.
Yes,
Literally.
I'm homebrewing some fantastic stuff
Yeah,
already.
homebrewing, just like what Leo used to do. So
Not nearly as bad as Leo, but I'm very excited. It'll
What
be
did
good.
Leo do?
He makes these insane monsters that kill everybody.
So imagine if Leo had made a Dark Souls campaign homebrewed.
It'd be like he would say hello, and that would be enough to kill a character. It wouldn't even be a
that's
game.
a critical hit.
There was one time where Danny was trying to attack some really powerful ninja shogun guy or whatever, and was attacking with necrotic damage, and Leo just said immune, and Danny's like, "What the fetch?"
Yeah, his character.
Anyway, sorry, we rag on Leo, but he's great.
All right.
But I know Tyler's like a slight step down from that in the whatever. I'm excited.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, listeners. Bye.
Shut up. Bye.
And,
Shut up, bye!
Hello everyone, Adam here from the Gunpowder Treason No Plot podcast. The show you've just listened to is part of the Necropodicon network. Visit necropodicon.com for a host of other podcasts, including our own misadventures in a 5th edition homebrew world of mad gods, crazed cults, and violent revolutions. Check out our new episodes every Monday on the Necropodicon network.